everybody. We are Dappros team. It's an experimental conversation about React Native technology. So the topic of this one is we'll start from social sign-on discussion. So right now in the call with me, I have team members Nikhil Bankar and Vinith Nambiar, and we'll just talk about some things like that. So one thing that I have in mind, and in this conversation we'll be asking any sort of questions, and we don't pretend to know the answers, and we'll just be researching some things as we go forward. So one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is what's the best way to implement social sign-on mechanism in React Native applications. So we can, just search together. I will share my screen and social login. How to implement. Because one thing I'm trying to understand is what is the native or what's the recommended way, and I know that there is Firebase document about that. So maybe that's like first question I would like to ask Vinith is what do you think? So there is Firebase document about social authentication. So is this the recommended way, or are there other ways to implement social?
This is not the recommended way. I mean, this is, but this would be a best way for our product, as because we are already using Firebase. The other way would be to use that React Native social login library, I guess. And so basically the main thing that is required for social sign-on or login in React Native or in any application is to configure this particular thing in, for example, if you are using Facebook, then we have to go to developer.facebook.com and configure it over there. And similarly for Google too, we have to go into developer console of Google, and then we have to set up those things. That would be the basic thing. The library that we are using currently, if we are using Firebase, then it will handle the request and response using the component. I think,
So I get it right. So if we want to provide a button in our app saying, sign in or log in with Facebook, we have like multiple options. One option is we go directly to Facebook and check their API SDK for that. And enable us as a application or provider there in Facebook developer account and do it directly. And another way I see in Firebase that we can add it via Firebase console, just enabling Facebook sign-in provider, as they say here, right?
Yeah.
So which is better, or do you think, or are they equal, or which way?
I think from what I have seen, from my experience, I have used both of the ways, and Firebase would be better because theirs would be the consistent way. I mean, we don't have to worry about the future changes in Facebook's API, if there are any, or any Google's, because they would update their library too, that is Firebase. And so that way I think Firebase would be the better option for us, rather than just directly linking our app to Facebook and separately Google. So Firebase will have has this capability of making this available in just one bunch, that is one library itself. So I think Firebase would be the better option. And maybe we can also document it via Firebase too. That is, and for analytics, I guess we will also have the data over there. Like I guess I am not sure about this, but I think we will be able to record how many traffic we have from Facebook, that is via Facebook login or via Google login. We can have that data. So yeah, I think Firebase would be the best option.
Okay, that's very useful to know, and I thought pretty much as much. It sounds like in our case and in cases where you are already using Firebase, and definitely in cases where, well, in many cases where you have an Android app, you would be using Firebase. It's kind of would be one of the easy options, but you don't have to do that. You can directly implement it via providers. So next question here is something to understand as well, is what kind of I'm not sure, how it works, like the whole thing technically. I worked with oath authentication in the past. There are all these like sort of plugins. So obviously, main thing with this solution is that the password itself or any security credentials are not exposed. So that's the main idea. So
exactly.
we can log in, but login is handled by third-party providers like Apple or Facebook or Google, and we are told that this user is okay, and we log in knowing that that is like a user with given credentials. But our application and our front end or our back end as a developer, we don't get any access, obviously, to any of those social networks passwords of that user, right?
Yeah, exactly. The main idea over here is that using the third-party libraries like the using social sign-on, that is login via Facebook, login via Apple, like I saw here, and Google, is that we know if that particular user is a member, that is a user of Apple, is in the database of Apple or Facebook or Google, then that person is a verified user. So we don't have to worry about the verification of the genuinity of the user, whether it's a bot user or we don't have to worry about those things. So these big companies login system, we can assure that okay, this particular user is genuine, and this like you said, we don't have to expose, the users don't have to expose their password and other steps. So I think that's how these things work and are better in this way.
So we get some sort of token in response. So I can see that with Apple case, we should receive identity token. With Facebook scenario, we should receive access token, and Twitter, what we get, some sort of oath token as well, I guess. Google, what we get with Google, Google Auth Provider ID token. So this token is something that tells us that this is a valid user. And what do we do with this afterwards? So we, as far as I understand, with Facebook and Gmail, for example, login, we would be getting some information about that user, like first name, last name, the email address, and maybe a photo as well. So some sort of data we can use for identifying the user in our app, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it works for both the registration, for our registration, and also for the login purposes. That is, for example, if that particular user is not already a member of Dappros, that is our Chai Connect, for example, then what we can do is get their information, get this particular token and other information from this library and use it to register this particular user into our Chai Connect. So if you have noticed, there are many applications wherein they don't have a specific registration page. Even if you are not a member of that particular application, you just need to log in via Google or log in via Facebook. The other things, the registration and login part is already done by that particular instance, in that particular instance itself. Yeah, so that's the main logic what I have
Yeah,
think.
that was my next question actually. So, if
Yeah,
what happens if so okay, we have our custom platform, our custom application. Like everybody is building something, they want to log in the user into their system. So in
yeah,
most cases, then they use those credentials to. Well, I'm not sure if most cases, but our current flow is in previous versions at least. We still create a user account in our server side,
yeah,
in our backend system, with these
yeah,
credentials. Not with these credentials, but with knowing that this is the user, and we have this first name, last name, and we create account in our backend. But is it okay not to do that and just log in the user always with this social signing?
yeah, yeah. It depends. It depends on what kind of uh, like, for example, for Chai Connect, I think we cannot do that directly because we need more information than just email and all those steps, I guess, as far as I remember.
Yes.
And
That
so
is
if
to
that
add
is the case,
additional information, right? So if you want
yeah,
to also allow users to, edit their profile, or
yeah,
to have some wallet or some sort of account,
yeah,
and have some points in the system, then you have to create user entity.
create, yeah, exactly.
For that.
Or how we can create a UX. Basically, this would be the UI UX part, wherein we just allow the user to log in, but we don't give them the, if they want the feature of token sending tokens and all those stuffs, then they need to have those information. That is, they need to complete the registration part basically. So we can once they log in, we can a modal or anything wherein they need to fill the other information that our system requires, so that their wallet can be enabled and they can later on successfully transfer tokens. So in our case, we will need extra informations, but we can handle it in this fashion. Like, just let them log in, and then later on other details that is required. But for this, I think
Okay.
we will also need to change our backends architecture too.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not sure about this, but yeah.
No, that's clear. Thank you, Vinith. But
Yeah.
another important question here is, what happens if so? I don't know what's the best practice here, but
Mhm.
users can log in with their Facebook account, and next time the same user might log in with their Google or Gmail account. So for the system purposes, those would be two different users, right?
No, I think because the system would recognize that, okay, this is the same user, because they are using the
How would it
same.
be?
Because yeah, for example, if my email ID is @gmail.com, so I have created an account on Facebook with this particular Gmail ID, and the
Mhm.
same goes with in Google too. I have this particular email ID that I'm using. So if I'm logging in initially with Facebook, then this particular email ID is what we need to store into our database. And next time, if that particular user, if I'm logging in via Google, then I know that, okay, this is the same email ID, so this is the same user.
Yeah.
So
So if that's the case, right? Because there might be cases when people use different emails for different social networks.
yeah, then they would have a different account.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify,
Sure.
because that's possible. And I know that sometimes systems, they try to implement some logic for merging the accounts, or like
if the user,
client, I just had a conversation recently. I won't name the client because we want to make this a public podcast, but basically in their scenario, they allow people to log in with social sign in, but they have no control, obviously, of which social sign-in the user is going to use, and if the users are using different emails, and also they have membership, which is handled in their network, which is handled in HubSpot. So what they do is they first log in the user, and via Facebook or Google or any social sign-in which they support. Then they check via HubSpot API if that email of that provided by the social sign-in token of that user is a member of the list on the HubSpot.
Right.
If not, then they have two options. Either say, you are not a member, you're not allowed in the system. Second option is merge the account. So allow the user to say, okay, actually I have this another email, and I can log in with that as well. And this way, you know that this email from this social network and that email from that other social network, and one of them is connected to my membership, so they all are part of the same, and you kind of merge and glue them together for the system purposes. I guess that's one logic there, right?
Yeah, I think we can also do that. Obviously, I have seen such scenarios wherein there is also a requirement where you are not using for example, if I am logged in using my email ID 1 with Chai Connect, and then later on I realize that I'm not going to use email ID 1, so I have created email ID 2. So I need to transfer my account to email ID 2. So this is also another scenario, not similar, I would say, but something wherein we have to merge the back. That particular email ID 1's information into email ID 2. So so I have encountered with such with applications wherein this too happens. So
I'm also already thinking here about our backend and our platform. So just generic scenario as well, where somebody wants to support multiple users from different social sign-in mechanisms, but ultimately they want to know that is the same user even if the user uses different emails. What we could potentially do is in our user database, in our users collection or record, or database schema for users in our users API, we could store separate records for for Facebook, for Twitter, for Gmail, and for example, that way we can match. And that way the merging would happen. So even if the user has different emails for different social networks, they will have an option to say, okay, I'm also on that network and on that network, and then in our user entity for each network, we'll have a recorded email from that network in the same user entity. So that way the merge will happen. I know it's a bit, it needs some additional logic there. So probably after the user has logged in, we need to tell them, this is the way we recognize you. But if you are also on other networks with other emails, then you might want to do those logins right now, so our system recognizes to merge your account, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that sounds like the way forward. I'm not sure if there are better, more elegant ways to do that, but that seems to be the way. Okay, so that's very useful, and this gives the seamless experience. Any other alternative ways to allow users in? I know some platforms like Slack, for example, they provide one-off sign-in, so you can, even without having to log in to provide login and password, you can just say, okay, I want to log in, and then you receive a unique sign-in key or link, so you can use that and get into the app for just directly from your email.
Okay. I don't think I'm aware of that mechanism. I guess. Yeah,
that's like what Slack and some others are doing. We're always obviously trying to find the easier options to provide seamless experience for the developers, for the users. So yeah, I think that's useful high-level understanding. So thank you, and
yeah, sure.
I think for the purpose of this discussion, we have covered it. And thanks everybody. We will put this online, this discussion, and we are happy to receive feedback and also comments about what other topics we need to cover next. So yeah, cool. Thanks everybody, and stay in touch for the new updates from us.